3 weeks ago, I had never ridden a motorbike. Now I'm out on the roads and I'm ready for my big bike. In this video, I'll take you through my first few weeks on the Honda CB125F. I'll go through what I've learned, what I've got wrong, and whether it was worth it. Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name's Delwar and I am a total beginner and I want to bring you along for the journey as I learn to ride. You've probably seen some of my initial videos and I hope you've enjoyed them. I have passed my CBT roughly a month ago and I've got about 12 hours of riding experience now since I've owned my bike. I chose this Honda CB125F because Honda is known for its reliability and I have experienced this myself. This thing has just been going and going and going and I've not had any trouble with it so far. It's so easy to work on. I've done everything on it myself. I've cleaned the chain, I've tightened the chain, I've done a service on it myself, changing the oil filter, and it is an extremely affordable bike. I got this for really cheap on auction online, hence why I've had to do some of the work on it myself, but it's also very affordable to run. I've put about £15 worth of fuel in. I've been using the premium fuel and I've just been going on for days. I don't even know, I can't say exactly how many miles I've ridden, but I put tenner in and it's been going for about 5 days and I've been coming out doing a couple of hour rides every single day. And lastly, this bike is extremely learner friendly. This is a very forgiving bike. You know, it doesn't have too much power that it's going to be scary. Initially when you get on the bike it is quite daunting, but it is not a scary bike at all. You can blip the throttle and it will not drag you along. It's just enough power for you to enjoy the roads and get used to the roads and get used to the handling of the vehicle. The gas is not too sensitive. You can make a couple of mistakes with your clutch and you will not end up in an accident. It's allowed me to really adjust to the changes from going from a car to going to a motorbike, and this is one of the reasons why I would highly recommend this bike. Later on in the video I'm going to be discussing some of the mistakes I made, and the reason I'm still on the road is because this is a very learner friendly bike and it is forgiving if you do make some mistakes. Had I had a very powerful bike or something more powerful than this, then maybe I wouldn't have got away so easily. So my first impressions of riding a motorbike. When I started out I was excited, I was nervous. It's a completely new experience. I've ridden a pedal cycle before and this was nothing like it. The weight of the vehicle is higher than that of a pedal cycle. You're going at speeds which cars are traveling at. It's very daunting. You watch loads of videos and oftentimes you pushed videos of motorbike accidents and sometimes it can make you a little bit more scared. I think you need a little bit of that in your life just so you're not doing stupid things when you get your bike, but it can really rack up your nerves. And it's one of those things, it's a solo activity. When you're starting out, you pick up your bike and you ride alone. You know, you don't really have that support there after a CBT. You're just going on your own and you're experiencing it by yourself, and it can be quite nervous because sometimes it might be nice to have someone there who has more experience to guide you. And I think this is where utilizing people's information online on YouTube can really help, because I found that I'd learned a lot from videos of people who have been riding motorbikes for years, and this helped me to avoid a lot of mistakes. So I want to talk about my first ride. My first ride was not how I anticipated it to be. When I purchased the bike, it was at the dealership. I planned to go to the bike store, pick up all my gear. I went all the way to the dealership. When I arrived there, they wouldn't give me the bike because they said they couldn't check the bank accounts over a weekend, so they couldn't confirm if I had paid for the bike or not, which I had. That's why I was there. So they offered to then deliver the bike out to me, and you probably go on YouTube and you find a lot of first rides, and it is people going to the dealership and riding their bike back home and they're very nervous. Unfortunately I didn't get that experience with my first bike, which is a 125. Maybe I will with a bigger bike. So the bike was delivered out to me, so I was in a very comfortable environment, which was right outside my house. I knew the area, I knew the roads, and all I had to do was get used to the maneuverability of the bike. And it was a very nice experience because I literally got on the bike, I put the clutch in, I put it in gear, and I rode off straight away. I made sure I had the right gear on, and I would say it was a lot more comfortable knowing that I was in an environment which I knew. So maybe for some people this might be an option, but really you do want to go away and check your bike and make sure it's okay. Do your wherever you're buying it from, make sure you're happy with it. If you are getting it from a place where you're covered with things like warranty and guarantees in case there are any problems, then you might want to consider having it delivered to you, but that will take away from obviously the first experience of riding it back if you're not confident. I however would happily have rode it back from the dealership. So was it scary when I got into the main road? I don't know. I don't really recall being scared. It was a completely different experience. But I have a driving license. I'm also licensed to drive vehicles up to 7.5 tons. I'm trained in blue light emergency driving. So I've had a significant amount of time training to ride on the road and learning to identify hazards and spot hazards, especially when we are driving at high speed with blue lights on. So for me, I wasn't really scared of being on the road, but I was scared of not being able to fluidly control the bike, as this is something that comes with experience and time of riding it around. So I definitely recommend ride around your local area where you can mess up and go into the wrong gears or press the brakes a little bit too hard and not have to worry about recovering anything, or not have to worry about being in an unknown location and being too scared to ride home. Luckily I didn't have to deal with any of this. Using the gears was almost second nature to me because I've already ridden a car. So this is something to consider, to understand your own level of experience just being on the road on any vehicle, because this will then reflect on how you are on a motorbike and identify what needs to be worked on when you're on a motorbike. So the good, the bad, and the surprises. What was easier than expected? Initially, I thought I was going to struggle with the slow speed maneuvers, because those are the things that in the back of your head you're thinking, if I'm going for my big bike test, I need to make sure I'm not putting my foot down. I need to make sure I'm controlling it. And this was something I struggled with at the beginning, coming out of junctions, slowly coming out of the junction into the correct lane without crossing over. This is something it took me a bit of time to get used to the clutch control, get used to using the accelerator along with the clutch and the rear brake to control myself at lower speeds. So that was easier than I expected, but I definitely needed a lot more time working on some of the things that I found harder. Looking back, I think I found going around corners quite difficult. When I was doing my CBT, I remember coming around a corner and feeling like I was running off the corner completely. So this is where my instructor told me, you've got to do some counter steering, and I didn't quite understand it. We didn't have enough time in the CVT to try and really grasp the concept of counter steering around the bends, but this has been improved since I've got out on my own bike. I started off with slow roads, 20 roads, 30 roads, increased it to some 40 roads, then on to some 50 roads, and slowly I went on to the national roads, which had more corners, and I started to learn how the bike counter steered. So when I was pushing left with my left hand, the bike was moving to the left. You can see a lot of videos about this online on YouTube, and they will really help you understand how the counter steering works. But again, it's one of the things you'll get from experience. Get on a bike, go to the car park, practice some counter steering, see how the bike maneuvers as you're pushing against the handles. It will be counterintuitive at first, and even if you've ridden a pedal cycle or a bicycle, it's not the same. You're not getting up to the same speeds where this counter steering comes into effect. So that was definitely one of the harder parts, and getting used to getting a lean in, utilizing your thighs, your knees to shift the weight on the bike so you can turn, and then becoming more confident with going around the corners and adding a bit more lean just to get around the corners. So this was definitely one of the harder aspects of riding a motorbike. And I just want to highlight some of the scariest moments I've had, which is again relating to coming around the corners where you feel like you're coming in too fast, and you should not be going onto your front brake if you're going around a corner and you've got some lean on. So something to keep in mind is don't be shy to use your rear brake to slow yourself down if you feel like you're coming too quick into a corner. I've done it a lot of times in this video, you might even see. So this is something to keep in mind, and you're gonna make these mistakes, and when you make these mistakes, that's the only way you're really gonna learn how to avoid them in the future. So going on to the next bit, I want to talk about, is it worth getting a 125cc? It's not my daily driver. I'm not using it to get to work and back. It is just primarily for leisure use and just enjoying the roads out in the UK. So is it worth it? In that sense, it depends on what things you value or what things you like to do in your own time. If you don't like riding, if you don't like driving, if you don't like being outside, then maybe it might not be for you. But if you do enjoy driving and you enjoy getting out and seeing new places, then getting on a motorbike is just a complete different experience of doing that compared to a car. So it might be worth it. And the second question is, well, how much are you willing to spend to have this experience? You need to think about the steps involved in getting your motorbike license and then getting the bike and insuring the bike. So, doing your CBT is not too expensive, and it gives you the possibility of riding around on a 125cc for 2 years. Now you might be able to get on a bike and then figure out if this is really for you or not, so it's definitely worth a shot. But then you're looking at things like, if you are staying on a bike, you would be looking at getting your full license. Depending on your age, you can get different levels of licenses, so your A1, A2, or for me, where I'm 26 years old, I can go and get a full license, but it is quite a significant cost, up to around £1,000 to get the license. Affordability was definitely a big factor for me when I was trying to figure out what bike I wanted. For me at the time, I've just basically done my CBT. I've picked up my basic equipment like the helmet and gloves to do my CBT. You don't even have to do that, you can get that from the driving school or the riding school you go to, but I just wanted it just for personal reasons. I prefer having my own helmet and gloves. And then once I'd done my CBT, I went and bought a jacket and pants. And again, you don't have to spend ridiculous amounts of money, but do look at the different safety ratings of different gear, and go into your bike shop, talk to people who sell this stuff or people who buy this stuff regularly, and they're really the experience I've had, they've been really nice and they've been helpful, and they've identified the right gear for me to wear within my budget range. Again, looking at the bikes, so 125cc bikes, they can be quite expensive, because everyone who's getting into motorbiking wants to try and ride something smaller. So you don't have to go and spend a lot of money to get onto a bike. Maybe sacrifice some areas of power or age, or maybe consider something slightly higher mileage. Look into what things need to be checked when buying a bike, so you can find something a little bit cheaper. I went for the CB125F because I found it on an auction for almost £500, £600 cheaper than market value. I know that if I sell this bike, I can get my money back out of it. So another thing to consider is, do your research on the sale price of a bike, but also the resale price, and you'll tend to find Chinese bikes don't hold their value as well. I can't talk on the reliability. A lot of people have said they're not very reliable, but when it comes to the resale value, a Japanese bike will hold its value a lot better, and you can get your money back out of it if you want, or if you want to upgrade to a bigger bike. So all things considered, then it was just my insurance. After I picked up my bike, check your insurance before you buy your bike. Make sure you can insure it. You don't want to make that mistake. I looked around and I was actually quite surprised. It wasn't what I expected. I'd done a few quotes and I adjusted my insurance level depending on what amount of risk I want to take, whether you want third party fire and theft, or fully comp. For me, as a first year rider, it's quite expensive to get fully comp, especially with the address I've used or where I live. So you need to consider your risk and how much you're willing to spend on your insurance. And with the extra money, I invested in really good security for the bike, including heavy duty chains, alarms, covers, etc. So you need to think about what things you want to get from your bike, and is it something you're going to be claiming on, or will you just take it on the chin? If it's quite a significantly expensive bike, you're gonna want to go third party fire anthem or fully comp. You know, if it's quite a significant amount of money to you, that is all down to your own risk tolerance and what you're willing to walk away with. Consider the worst case scenario. If your bike was to be stolen, how much would it affect you? Would it be to a point where you look back and think, you know, I should have gone with the other insurance level instead? So yeah, do your own research. Looking back, I definitely think it's worth it. I've really enjoyed it as a leisure bike. It's given me a reason to get out and see more of the UK. It is a little bit underpowered, but upgrading is something I'm thinking about in the future. But I've got 2 years to do that. I've gone away, I've done my theory test, and I'm ready to do my full license. Just not as of yet. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to ride this bike for a bit and just keep learning, because I think every day I'm going out, I am making a few mistakes which I need to work on, and that will in the end make me a much better rider for when I get around to get that big bike. So I want to leave you with a final thing. If you're a new rider, what was your biggest challenge? Let me know in the comments below, and next time I'll talk about some of my biggest mistakes as a new rider, so that you can learn from them and you don't have to make the same mistakes. Please drop a like, drop a sub if you like my content. If you want to see it more, hit the bell notification and share it with your friends if you really enjoyed it, and if you think there's some learning to be had from this video. If you've got any questions about getting into motorbiking, leave them in the comments below and I'll try and answer everything I can, or even make a video responding. Thank you for watching, guys.